Awesome.
Awesome. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. I think we've got communication. We've got contact.
Excellent. Good stuff. Excellent. Right. Marvelous. Actually, I'm amazed that this has worked first time. I hadn't set it up for Zoom until literally right now. I ran in from work. I literally got out, got changed into a different shirt and put this here. And I'm just hoping to God nobody decides to walk up right this very minute, which Sod's Law dictates will probably happen.
Oh, well, it's one of those things. I kind of had the same situation. I came in from being in town and literally so hot, just so hot. I was like swimming, just had to change your clothes and get some in my belly, and then we're away. So
marvelous. Yeah, marvelous. We got there. Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah, I was just like driving around all day with no air conditioning and then no air conditioning in the vehicle during the day and no air conditioning when you drive home either. So it's just window open and more hot air blowing you in the face, which it's just not the same. It's really not
progressively caking in more and more sweat.
Yeah, exactly. It's
just getting angrier and angrier with yourself.
It's becoming an extra layer of sort of skin sediment type thing around you.
Just coming in and just like, whoa.
Yeah. Just like, I just need to take my clothes off and then this layer of skin off, and then I'll just pick a new layer of skin out from the wardrobe, like a carapace or something.
Well, it's we're off to a good start.
Yeah, it's just peeling one's skin off. Yeah.
Set the tone.
Yeah. Oh, exactly. Yeah, it's like strap in. Strap in. This is where we're going. This is where we're heading. Now, you, sir, you have actually made notes. You've done this properly. So, would you care to get us off to a flying start?
All right. Well, I'm just going to dive in and try and do my best to wing it, as they say in the trade. So, I'll start with you, Ozzy, because I know you perform. And you're with a band. Can you remind me of the name? I know it's terrible. I've just forgotten it.
No, that's fine. The name is Leather, and the official name is Leather and Lace - the Rock Anthems and Power Ballad Show. I've been with it for about 5 years ago. It sort of came together. I've been in bands before, here, there, and everywhere. I've been working with my dad's side of music since about 10, 11 years ago, and that's going out and doing weddings, functions, birthday parties, big hotels or little marquees or anything in between. And that's all right, but it is the expected fare. It's current chart hits, best of what is it we say when we're asked to do the cheesy stuff? It's the cavalcade of crap. So
it's like the eye roll and the kind of like just.
Yes. Please play Sweet Caroline so all the rugby players can go da da da. That's it.
Just like
it's talking to Sweet Caroline. We did it once at a gig 3 times because every time the guy requested it, like he said, I want Sweet Caroline. We're like, all right. And I literally saw him as the band are going in. He's going off to the loo, the bar every single time. And he came back and went, you didn't play my song. Play my song. It's like we literally just like the last note as you walk back from the bar, and it's like, I'll play.
I think there's someone that's pulling your chain a little bit. I think he knows what he's doing.
Oh, don't they just forget the other thing they do as well is this is a very like not a teenage girl thing. This is kind of like a hot girl thing because they're quite used to getting their way. They sort of what they do is they have this thing of, can you play X, Y, and Z? Because me and my friend are leaving like right now. But they'll do that at like 5 minutes after you started at 7:30 and the night's not finishing till midnight. You'll see them an hour later and go, yeah, me and my mates, because we're leaving really soon. Could you play X, Y, Z? It's the same when I DJ for these things. And it's like, well,
so demanding.
And you were clearly not leaving because I saw you here 2 hours ago asking the same thing. So... no. So
it's like, I know your game.
Oh, yes, exactly. I know your game. Yeah,
you're lucky you're attractive.
No, exactly. Yeah. Well, sometimes it's just like sometimes that's nice that you can just say, "Well, I've got a job to do." So, believe it or not, you're about to hear something you very rarely hear, which is no. So it's like, what do you mean no? I'm beautiful. And I've got a job to do, and I'm not entirely driven by my loins when there's money involved. So I'm not.
It's funny how that works. So you just put the money incentive in between, and that's a pretty good barrier, I think.
Yeah.
It's like
any
job
other
to do.
Yeah, exactly. Any other thing where it's like it's not dependent on what you're doing. It's like, Maybe I'll take you up on that, but
I'm busy with it, but I
Well, I
suppose I could.
yeah, I can give you 5. You know, I could make space.
I multitask.
Yeah, I multitask. But yeah, so that's kind of the sort of thing we do, and I still do it now. It's not like it's sort of since, well, in all honesty, since about 2008, that the bigger side of stuff is less and less frequent. It used to only be big bands, you know, at least 7 people or 8 people in the band, 2 crew, me included, lights and sound, and lifting it all in. Yeah. We've adjusted now because we can do things like Rotarian and Mason's dinners. You know, they'll just go, we don't necessarily care that it's not all live. We would just kind of like it if you just played things we like. So we have the laptop with the bass of the backing tracks on it, and we'll have Al on the sax, and we'll have a girly singer. My old man will play guitar, sing most of the lead vocals, and decide what we're playing. I'll play the keyboards, have the smaller PA by my side. So I've been doing that for about 10 or so years. And the leather and lace thing literally started, I answered a want ad because there was people saying, do you want to get out and play? You know, we're looking for a project. This will be going into theaters, and it will be big rock anthems from the 80s and the late 70s. And it's, if anyone's a layman and goes, well, what is that? I go, when you go into the petrol station and there's that rack of CDs to like either the left or the right of the counter, you know, where Alan Partridge would stand with the boiling hot, with the apple thing. It's hotter than the sun. There would be like always a CD of like there'd be like a long American highway, and then in like sort of a big mountain range with like lightning bolts.
Best American power ballads.
American power ballads. Yeah, exactly. It is like that. You know, it's like feature. You know, it's everything. If I went through, like, say, I'll go through the first 6 songs of the set. So it's like opening Final Countdown by Europe, goes into Eye of the Tiger by Survivor, then then We Built This City on Rock and Roll by Starship, Toto Hold the Line, Keep On Loving You, Rio Speedwagon, Is This Love by Whitesnake.
God.
Oh yeah,
it's ticket, man. Jesus.
Oh, yeah, you'll have it. Well, you know, when we actually start playing again, we will. So I play basically keyboards. I have like 2 or 3 keyboards because I think I won the lottery because when you're in that space, there's a lot of kids people of all ages want to learn the guitar to that. They want to learn to sing or drum it. When it comes to keyboards, it's pretty much, it's a pretty... it's not exactly, they're not lining up around the block to do it. And there's also not a lot of people who play it. There's a lot of like people who were through the 60s who like playing like 60s keyboards and still do, and a little bit of 70s stuff. Then there's just this gap because it was a very American thing. And it didn't like, it came over here as a consumer good, like as in things that people listen to, but it didn't like kind of take off in its own right over here. It wasn't
really such a performance genre thing. It was more sort of like the music.
Yeah, and we sort of, and I think as a nation, we sort of sneer at a lot of that. Like there's the tendency to think that like that's the naffest kind of corniest music ever. But at the end of the day, what they are is big pop songs dressed up with muscle and grits. And, you know.
Yeah. I mean, just to jump in, it's a kind of like, we're kind of, I feel there's kind of like a mentality like we kind of turn up our noses like the ostentation of like of American music, like because they always want to go big and large with that kind of thing, and especially with rock, like the rock bands out of the United States, always big and always loudest and always really ostentatious. But to be fair, when I think of that, the funniest thing, I think of Whitesnake, and it's just literally
British.
Effectively British. So it's like they must have just seized on that as it came over and went, oh, actually.
If you look at from about 84 to 87, like that's when David Coverdore's going like, dye the hair, like get good looking guys in who look good. Because I think that the whole power of video thing was like that MTV thing. That was something that British audiences weren't for, because America's used to like just like umpteen channels. Even in the mid 80s, it wasn't all that new. But for us, it was like still trying to tune in Channel 4 in the hope there would, in the hope there would be some nudity that you'd heard of, and you know there wasn't.
Is there any Eurotrash on?
Is it? Maybe there'd be a fleeting glimpse of an unbikini.
Through the crackle, you see some French bikini model, and just he's like, "Oh, titillation! That's going to keep me going for another week."
Yeah, exactly. That will keep me going when I'm bored of my National Geographics and
our very staid English viewing, like
yes,
watching BBC Two like nature documentaries on loop, obviously because we're British.
Yeah.
Very. We put our cardies on and just watch.
Sitting in a wingback chair with a pipe, like most invigorating.
Yes. Oh, it's full of joy and whimsy.
Whimsy. That's a good word. I haven't heard the word whimsy in a long, long time.
Oh man, I've got words for you, man. I've got words coming out my ears. I just got to tell my brain on to actually use them.
You are the Thesaurus Rex. So you know.
Now that's a good name. I'm going to put that on a T-shirt. That's going to be the next thing.
If you had like a Twitter or another handle, it would be the Thesaurus Rex. I think that would be underneath, John Paul Day, the Thesaurus Rex.
Yes.
Yeah. So, but no, you are right about that. Like we kind of sneered at. Well, critics have always sneered at it. Like I think
they sneer at everything. It's like kind of like
they sneer at everything that's listenable. If something's like just ear-scrapingly kind of esoteric or like the whole idea, like the less you understand it, the better music it is. That's why like
it's just so abstract and just
it's so.
They scratch two whale bones together and the sound it makes. And the way that it speaks to me on a level I just can't explain.
Explain 5 stars,
Well, you're a critic. You're meant to kind of explain.
Yeah, that's it. Yes, like I can't put it into words. Like, could you give it a go? You're kind of charged for that. That was what's that joke? It's I can't remember what it is. Not Lee Mack. Someone similar. It might have been Lee Mack or something. Which is it's like the kind of the audience participation in festivals, and it's like Robbie Williams will always finish his set with Angel. Said the piano comes in, he holds the mic up to the audience and go, "Come on, Nebworth, you know this one." And his answer is like, "Yeah, Robbie, it cost us 75 quid to just get in. Is there any chance you could sing it for us?"
Yeah. Well, this is the thing is like I think Robbie Williams he's got that sort of like that niche sort of like national treasure kind of thing going on, and all the older mums love him, all the girls kind of love him, and like he's of an age where he probably just doesn't give a shit.
No, he's like, I've earned my money. It's whatever.
Every other song, puts the mic out to the audience, just literally like buggers off for a cigarette over the side.
I mean, he can do it. It's not like, I think someone like Bon Jovi, like I think he got pushed. If you listen to how high you've got to go in Living on a Prayer and that anything of that era, and like that's hard enough in a studio. When you're out live, and even if the monitoring is even not 100% for you, now rock stars go out and they literally have earbuds, so everything they need to hear is in their earbuds, in-ear monitoring. There's none of those big speakers like facing them on stage, which you can't crank up too much because then it creates feedback in the mic. So then there needs to be like an even keel for that. And if they can't hear themselves, and a lot of bands, like my dad remembers bands up to about the early 80s, they would go out and sing with no monitoring. It was just the front house, front of house PA system, and they just had to hope they're in tune, which made them more likely to sing in harmony well, which a lot of bands don't do now. So
it's more authentic as well, because a lot of from what I gleaned from like music from the 70s, like early late 60s to the 70s through, is they were very sort of like bootleg sort of things. They performed. They didn't really have any production. Well, not any production, but
they were ad hoc. Yeah,
very ad hoc. Like they'd appear at a bar, and basically someone would do sort of a bootleg recording of them there. And then that would kind of be like something they referenced and then recorded in the studio, maybe.
Yeah, exactly. And the studio recordings wouldn't be that much more sophisticated. And it's also like what people remember said, if you would buy brand new bits of equipment and it was expected they would break down on a gig. It wasn't like, oh, well, I've invested in this PA system, I'm good for another 4 or 5 years. No, they're just like, no, there's something in it's blown. Like, it will just do that.
It's like, wow, there's $4,000 bit of stuff, and then it's just like, oh, one of the components is fried.
Yeah.
Is it meant to do that?
Just keep singing. It's literally who's got the working mic? Okay, you move over here. You don't.
The mic just so fries, and then just throw that off the stage and grab
the other one.
Guitar. Well, actually, grab the bassist mic. I mean,
grab the bassist mic.
He's not going to sing, is he? Come on, it's like you can't even see him.
It's not unless you're dealing with like Geddy Lee or you're a power trio. It's like, right, one mic's gone, that's all the mic's gone. The bass player can't sing. But like, yeah. So betting back on point to what we do, we do go out in. Like the 3 keyboards, we've got 2 guitarists, one of which, we've got 3 backing harmony instrumentalists, as in they will play and sing the occasional harmony. And we've got 2 front lead singers, a lead male singer and a lead female singer, and they will alternate or duet on the songs. Okay. So, for the male stuff is all very obvious, but for female stuff in rock, it's things like Hit Me With Your Best Shot, Pat Benatar.
Mm.
The big production piece for Tanith, who's our singer, is Alone by Heart, which is very the middle bit of that is so difficult to pull off. There's a lot of subtlety, and then you've got to absolutely belt it. And I do remember after, I think the first or second gig we did, she got somebody in the audience to Instagram it and to put it on as a 30-second clip of her going for the middle bit. And when I think within about a month, Anne Wilson of Heart had actually stamped her like on it, like her Instagram account had stamped like, because obviously you hashtag it and eventually like you look, you know, if you're searching for yourself on an ego trip on Instagram, go like, oh, someone's tagged me in this live performance and it's her doing it. So Anne Wilson obviously thought it was good enough, you know, the woman who, the seal of approval, which is brilliant. You know, I've tried doing that with like people like Rick Wakeman and Eddie Van Halen. I've got nothing. Like I've tagged me doing like the jump solo. Absolutely not a lick of appreciation.
Well, I think it's sort of like the difference in ego. Well, some singers, but guitarists especially have that massive ego. Like if someone else is doing their song, it's like, I can't really give them chops because no, especially if they're a bit past it, and you can tell. Like it's said that the thing with guitarists getting older is like, I reckon there's a thing with blues guitarists. Like you notice when like they start getting to a certain age, like the accessories start to get more excessive. So like there's a bandana to make up for the fact they're losing hair, and then there's like aviators in all weathers, and then there's like 8 scarves, and there's just like neckerchiefs. Like if you any blues player from like the 60s or 70s, if they're still touring now, they're more bangles and scarves than they are human, essentially. If you look at like a rock Morris dancer, just like covered in all sorts of random shit.
Rock Morris, literally, it's just jangly shit and accessories, you know, to sort of disguise the fact they can't. It's fine if you can't jump around anymore, you know, kind of like perform with dignity, you know. So we've got.
Well, by the way, it's I'm not advising anyone to actually make rock Morris dances a thing. I
bet they already are. I bet there's some horrible like niche of England where, you know, sort of like
some dark corner,
you know, where the fingers are very webbed and you know,
just some random guitarist like shredding like a madman while some Morris dancers like flip and whirl around him.
You see, you put it like that and it kind of sounds cool. And I'm worried that we're kind of making it sound cool. I do have a friend, funny enough, our roadie for the function band, who does gothic Morris dancing. And you would love this, mate, because I know you're a Lord of the Rings guy. If you turn up, they do wear masks, and it looks like orcs doing Morris dancing. Like, that's it. And they properly, you know, all weathers, they will wear these big black full face masks, all in black, like shredded, you know, kind of like shredded you know, like sort of cloaks and everything, and in the full, you know, it doesn't look namby-pamby. Let's put it that way. It looks kind of, you know,
it looks brutal.
It looks brutal, yeah. The music is not at all brutal. It all looks like but they do the old sticks like hey, you know, all that kind of
old timey angst, maybe.
Yeah, it was like I wish I could remember who said the quote, and I think it might have been Spike Milligan, which is like, there are 2 things in life you should never attempt: incest and Morris dancing. And he said, and I come to that. I think the latter is definitely the one off the table in the worst case scenario.
Oh yeah. I mean, any relatives? Sorry about this, but they said that Morris dancing is the other one. Otherwise, they get chopped.
Mind you, in places where it's popular, I should imagine that they are probably the 2 most prominent pastimes.
It's a marriage. It's an intermarriage.
It's an intermarriage. Yeah.
Wrong word.
When the family tree looks like the Audi logo, like, or a stump.
Oh God.
so yeah. What was I talking about? Oh yeah.
Apologies, everyone. Sorry about that. If you engage in those hobbies, I mean, we're not judging. It is 2020. Live your best life.
Exactly. Live it to the full. And you know, but this isn't going to be the most linear thing you're going to see all day. We're not. This is not storyboarded. So
God.
Yeah. So So we do that, and we started off. The lineup's changed a little because people come and go. Well, we have got pedigree. Our lead singer, both the lead singers we've had, male singers, have sung for. If I said the words "the Sweet," would that resonate with you? It'd probably resonate with someone. Blockbuster. Dun, 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 dun.
Oh yeah.
Hellraiser, very early 70s. Like kind of, they were initially made as a pop band, but they always wanted to be like a hard rock band. So they would like do like poppy hits of the early glam Slade, David Bowie type thing, but it would always be just that little bit harder and more aggressive. I would always suggest pick up the best of the suite anywhere you can, because you'd be amazed at like the hard rock stuff they had going on there. Drums were just phenomenal, like a 72, and there's someone going like that on a pop hit, absolutely. And they all sang in 4-part harmony. So he sang with them on off in the 90s and noughties. A chap called Paul Manzi who did the first 2 gigs with us, and there's another chap who is now our lead singer, who runs a rock school down in the Portsmouth area, or 4 rock schools, to teach kids how to get out and rock. So he says, right, I've got the PA, most of the instruments. I'll find us a venue. I'll put a gig in place. I'll provide the PA, provide the monitors, provide the equipment. All you've got to do is learn the songs that you want to learn effectively. I'll sing them for you. And then you get to go out and basically at a young age, you know, in your late teens or something, go and play. Or he also brings in people who are like, either it's like a wish list thing, say if they've got either a terminal illness and they've always wanted to play a gig, you know, but they've never had the chance, or it's all very good. Yeah. And people who've like, oh, I had a band in my 20s and then I had family and I had kids and I got out of it and want to get back into it again, but I don't know the channels to, you know, start a band from scratch. And he gives them the opportunity to play in places like the Wedgwood Rooms or the Havant Park, you know, reasonable size, you know, 100 to 200, you know, capacity venues. So he's done that. And because of all this work he's done for the last 15 years of doing this, he's received an British Empire Medal for services to music. So that was awarded earlier this year, and took 4 years of his mates and well-wishers basically submitting his videos of him doing stuff. And he's thoroughly earned it. He's a brilliant lead singer. He's an absolute gent. Our girly singer comes to us from sort of a more theatrical world. She's very much classically trained, and she's like, her kind of music's more from the sort of modern metal kind of darker kind of stuff, but she loves all the same stuff we do. And because she comes from that, she's got a very, very distinct image and good look, like very much like a sort of, almost like, I would say that if I called her a sexy Morticia Adams, she would probably take that. There you go. You see, that's resonated.
That works.
That works. Yeah, exactly. Which she would absolutely embrace. It's the leather cat suit, like the long jet black hair, long immaculate straight hair, kind of like a gothic kind of, you know, like white makeup and, you know, nice red lips and all that sort of thing. And she's Welsh, which is a very approachable thing on stage. Like, hello, my lovelies, you know. And so if everyone gets behind that, everyone loves that. And and then Gary, the bass player who got me into it, who was the guy who put the Ones Hat out, has become a very good friend of mine. He's an excellent bass player, and he was Gene Simmons in Europe's biggest Kiss tribute band for 25 years. Luckily, yeah, he's well over 6 foot normally on flats, and then when he puts those big boots on, and the makeup, he's 7 foot of demon, you know. And absolutely. He can do the blood thing. He can fire breathe, and you know, he's got that axe bass. You know, that bass with a big axe like shape to it, amongst many other basses. A lot of he doesn't dare count them. In case the wife gets annoyed. So
you've got how many?
How many? Oh. The great meme that you can just transfer with any kind of husband and wife relationship. It's just a single picture of a woman who's clearly just walked in to the foyer of a house, and it's decorated with red roses everywhere, and the caption is, "Oh my God, he's bought another guitar."
Well, yeah, kind of smooth that one over as tactfully as you can.
Yes. You know, I've always loved you, darling. How much was it? You know, how much was it?
Rose petals? No.
Yeah, we're currently swapping over one of the guitarists at the moment. One of them's got family problems, and for their interest, it's best that they take care of those, which is fair enough. A guitarist who used to play in a band called Tiger Tails. He's currently in a band called Son of Man, who are kind of a continuation. There was a band called Man in the 70s who were moderately successful, and it's literally the guy who was the son of the guy who formed it, created a band to do some of their numbers and also do new numbers. It's a predominantly Welsh act. Ian, the drummer, he's our star quality because he is a presenter on TalkSport. He's a football commentator, and a very funny one at that, and he's now a presenter on Planet Rock as well. So some days he will say, like, do his morning show. He did one thing. He did a morning show on Planet Rock. He got a cab to where he's parked his car in the middle of London, drove up to the north end of Essex where we were playing, We got there just in time, put the drums out, and he sings as well, and he is our musical director. Tested all of that, had a great gig, drove back to his home in Wiltshire, had a few hours sleep, and then drove up to like Manchester like early the next morning to do like an away game or something. You know, I don't know when he sleeps, and also he's musically brilliant. Not only is he a brilliant drummer, he's a great singer, and he finds harmonies for people to do. Like he goes, your voice is best suited to like the low one, your best is best suited to the high one. He'll make tracks so you can like kind of gauge your harmony or a bit you should play. You know, musical director is his basic name. And yeah, I think that's everybody and me, and I do my keyboards, and I'm sort of, me and Tanith are more towards the younger end of the group. You know, it's like we bring the age range down by a bit, which is like, it's nice that, I mean, I think they say it's nice that we're not all just people who are past it doing it, but everybody who's older anyway is very much in it and very good at what they do.
Good dynamic to have, yeah.
Yeah, it is, yeah, because I think there's a lot of, I've sometimes gone and seen sort of bands where you can sort of tell that they're struggling to do what they do when they're younger. And what, you know, like people like David Coverdale, Whitesnake does, essentially Whitesnake is him, he owns the name, and then, you know, just basically just upgrades the band. It's kind of like, you know, when they divorce and you kind of like trade in the old wife for a new one, you know, you just keep getting the newer, shinier, faster model. And
it's like, that's like the fifth guitarist he's had in like 2 months. What the bloody hell's going on?
Yeah, money, what does it say? And how old is he? Money or drugs? That's all I'm going to say, money or drugs.
I'm not going to say anything.
I'm not going to say anything. You're just like, it just looks weird, you know. Does he realise what
booking?
Yeah, it was like, does he realise what vibe he's giving off with that? But no, we forgive that. So as a dynamic, we work well together, and we're good mates and all that. And we were doing, it started off like 2 or 3 gigs a year, and this is all over as well. This is like, I think that, you know, the first one was Chesterfield in Derbyshire. The second one was Sudbury, which is like right at the bottom of Suffolk, and then it was like Blackburn, Exmouth, you know, down in the West Country. And then last year, I think we must have done, I don't know, 12, 14, 15 gigs or something like that. And I've come from a weird world. They will come from a world where they played in bands, doing clubs, doing originals, and they've set up really late and maybe hoping that people come through the door and put money in the till and they get a cut out of it. Yeah. I've come from the world of corporate where you kind of, you know what you're getting for the night. You know it's 200 or it's 250 or it's 180, and you play, and you're like one of maybe umpteen things the audience can pay attention to. So you go in, and like there'll be, you know, when you play your hots and your dance stuff for a mixed audience, they're always very, you know, they always say, you know, you play very well, you're very grateful, but you're not necessarily connecting with them because you are there to kind of like, you're just like part of the evening's entertainment. With Leather and Lace, you are what they've come to see. They have bought tickets, they've gone to a big theatre, they've got a drink, they're sitting down in, you know, comfy seats, and they are looking at the stage and they want to be entertained. So we've either got a projected logo behind us that we can make shimmer, we've got like a banner thing, we've got smoke jet things that blow up, coloured smoke, which is kind of cool. We always ask the theatres, like my job is to phone up theatres in advance and ask them about, you know, have you got any special effects stuff, or what's your audio like, and say, you know, give us everything you've got if it's free. You know, if it's is
it okay to do all this stuff?
Yeah, that's what I do. It's like, is it all right to, well, they always say it's fine to do smoke, you know, like they say, what chemical is it? I go, well, it's borderline water vapor with a little bit of like something in it to make it, you know, thicker. And I go, yeah, that's fine. We turn the smoke detectors off in that part of the room. I mean, it's not even heat. Like you put your hand over it, it's not hot. It's just like water vapor with a color pad underneath, so it comes out in color. And that's kind of cool. So that world to me is actually quite new. Most people would go the other way. They would play in bands where you start in an originals band with your mates. You do it in your teens, your 20s. You get bookings in clubs and pubs, and you sort of hope that you get like a pittance at the end, enough to cover your tracks. I mean, I've got a friend who's in a proper metal like band kind of thing.
That's the general universal understanding.
That's the universal.
What kind of music is that?
Horns. Well, they're not even that. Like, they're a bit more introspective than that. And they've done proper tours of, you know, like across Europe and France and the Netherlands and Germany and Switzerland and that. And
so kind of like this, but distant.
Yeah, that's exactly it. Doris said it's like it's so. I think they said it's like Deftones kind of meets Pink Floyd meets Killswitch Engage, which is like probably, you know, lots of heavy stuff, and then there'll be a kind of a long passage of clean guitars, and then you just hear that China cymbal 1, 2, 3, and then it's like lots of, you know, it's not fast. Funny enough, it's quite a lot of it's very slow and doomy with lots of sort of atmospheric stuff. It's quite good stuff. And
that does sound pretty interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll put the links. I'll put the links at the end of it. And they said that they'll go out, and if they've got if they make a profit that's above what it costs them to either drive or rent the band to get there, that's the best thing in the world. But then I told them it's like, and then they go, "What did you earn for your last gig?" Like, well, when we did Wales, and it was the girly singer's hometown, we all pulled in about 450 quid a piece. You know, which is like more than double what you'd get playing a whole night of like songs that maybe you don't even particularly like, going out and playing songs that you really love. It hasn't made me hate any of them either. Like, I really worried that it was going to get to the point where, at the point, like, if I hear like the strains of Uptown Funk after all, like that first dough, if I hear that after,
you just have an aneurysm and like,
yeah, it's just floor. Like, oh, God. But that's not even that bad. I think if I hear, like, what's the one I absolutely, it's just like, I cannot bear doing it. I think I think it might be Single Ladies or something, because it's so undoable as a band by Beyonce, because there's not even anything for the band to do, but people just requested it. So we just made a track and just kind of played over the top of it. Sweet Caroline, you just go, never need to hear that again. Just like, it's just ruined.
That's a lot. Hey, for the meal there.
Oh, yeah, exactly. Yeah, it doesn't leave me many places to go on a night out where I'm not going to be severely affected by, I need trigger warnings that they're going to play stuff I've heard a billion times.
But the irony, to the service station afterwards and just hear it rattling in the background, and you just destroy the place.
Yes. No. Please tell me something else.
You betrayed me. SO.
Yes. Please, you must have something else on shuffle.
Here's 50 pound ballad hits.
Oh, come on. Yeah, no, it hasn't. It hasn't made me dislike any. I will still crank up Toto and Van Halen in the car, even like the most obvious ones. It's I still love it all, and it really does feel. It's made me also appreciate, like, oh, this is actually like really tricky to pull off. This is actually like really. There's a lot going on in here. When you play with a band, you actually realize that you start playing less of what you don't need to. When you're a bedroom player, especially when you're a guitarist, you start playing unnecessary things because you're accompanying yourself. And when you're a keyboard player, I had to learn not to use my left hand for bass because the bass player was going, basically, fuck off, that's my job. And you're taking up all the low end. Yeah, it's literally, you look over and go like, the finger comes up, be like, you're muddying up the bass frequencies. And then I've had to learn, like, right, it's not necessary. You're not playing, in a small act and you have to make up for lost musicians. Just play the bits on the top. And it really helps, because I don't need to overplay. There's literally, little atmospheric things I can put in here and there. And I do have a 3 keyboard setup, and I do it properly, proper Rick Wakeman prog rock, stacks and stacks.
Spinning around like sort of like
on a spinning podium. I would love.
To be fair, take out an advisory. It's that might bring it to the next level. I'm just saying.
Well, probably the next level of like inertia sickness. Like if I couldn't like control it, because I would buy the one platform that would just start spinning out of control, like the old spinny restaurant thing. Like I would be that guy.
A Dr. No moment and just. Oh god! Oh no, Goldmember, isn't it? Oh no. Austin Dr. Evil. God.
That's it. Yeah, working backwards. Yeah, almost there. You went for the original. You went for the original reference. And like, no, I need the parody.
That's it. To be fair, I've got so many references that kind of cross wire each other. Like sometimes I can be in a conversation and completely lose my mind and just be like, is that what I mean? Wait,
was that what I meant? Yeah. Did I just shoehorn a steamed hams reference from The Simpsons into the very
this very conversation needed a steamed ham.
Oh yes. I did. Fun enough, one of my old job when I was doing work in the hotel and for AV audio visual, we actually had Tim Peake come in, and I had to do a gig that day. I'd already hired a guy to do most of the tech for me, but I had to turn up at the beginning. And they said, what I did ask, so what's like the main piece of it going to be? And the guy in this tone of voice literally said, Aurora Borealis. And I didn't want to go, Aurora Borealis. At this time of year, in this part of the hotel, in this room, located entirely within your laptop. Yes.
Yeah.
May I see it? No.
I
only had to walk out like with my fist in my mouth, like, don't. He's not gonna get it. Like, this hasn't become as big a meme yet. Like, that was
like, it's a bit sort of undercurrent. It's a bit undercurrent right now.
It is, yeah.
You need to wait for it to sort of pollinate onto Facebook, and then you'll be
Once the memes have cross-pollinated into that corporations are using them to sell shit, like that's when, you know,
like wow, this is like it's gone to dad joke levels now. It's
yeah,
not
exactly,
really a meme I can use in good conscience.
I remember when the Boromir Wonders Not Simply was like a fresh thing. Like, that's how far back I go, you know. I remember when they were
a classic.
Do you remember when they were called demotivationals? They weren't even memes. Do you remember the days?
I mean, I remember like back in the day when it was just like badly drawn stick people and stuff like that, and just faces. That's just literally that.
Yeah, and it's sort of stayed that way as well. It's kind of like the something go brr thing. It's kind of like gone all the way around the arc, and it's gone back to no, you can't, blah blah blah. And the other side is haha, something go brr. Like, it's just like we're just slightly modified versions of the same thing.
Yeah, I mean that's a whole conversation to have about like the whole nature of memes and stuff like that. It's like there's actually really good science behind it. Bear with me 1 second. I'm just gonna quickly close my window.
No worries.
Because I did hear earlier there was people screaming and shouting and all kinds of.
I thought that was in your house. I thought that was in your house.
I've just got a massive amount of domestic problems in my house. I mean, it's just literally like
each other.
Like, you should see my door. There's like an iron bar across it, and I've got like I've got a bat.
You got like that sort of set of 9 different kinds of locks. Like, you've got the Chubb one, and then you've got the little lock pin thing. Like,
oh yeah,
who is it?
It's like in The Mask, where as soon as I get upstairs, I literally run in and I like put boards across and like chains. And
you're just cross-boarding every window.
Yeah, and then I look around and it's in there. It's already in my room, and I'm like, ah!
It's just like, and now I've got to go down for dinner, right? Hang on, get the other end of the hammer out and pry it off.
Christ, what have I done it?
Like, I should really be less paranoid. I really should not let it get the better of me. So yeah, that's essentially what I do, and that's gained a lot of traction. You know, it's starting to get that thing where you go and do gigs, and people from that area will now go like, when are you coming back? Like, we'll come to that area. Like, we have people who live in the East Midlands who will go all the way to like well past Birmingham to see us because we're in that neck. They call it that neck of the woods. And it's like, I just remember like when I was, 10 minutes down the road and I was playing in pubs with my band with some of the Dorking boys. Like, you couldn't get people to walk 5 minutes to the King's Arms to come and see you play. It's like,
no, my pint's here. I'm not for the
pint's here. No. I'm in the Spotted Dog. It's a bit of a downhill walk, I might have to tumble down.
All over. I don't know.
I can't. I was very, very drunk. So yeah, but now it's like, because a couple of friends have seen it, and then I did a gig it was quite, I don't know, emotional, but kind of like a quite seminal one for me. The very first one we did this year was in Cranley, and because that's 10 minutes from where I live, and it's maybe an extra 10 minutes from where all my friends live, like, also, around your neck of the woods near Dorking, and that was a big thing. And annoyingly, it was, it's a lovely venue, but it's very small capacity. And the amount of tickets we sold, or like sold virtually on paper in terms of interest, would have been like 40, 50 more tickets than the venue could hold. Like, that's the amount of interest it got. And it was all people who knew me. And I think there was like 10 people in the audience who had no connection to me whatsoever. All just family.
This looks good.
Yeah, this looks like, literally, some people came like, do you like this kind of music? Like, we just like music and we like live music, and we came along. It's like, and that's it. So we had no idea that this audience was basically your family. It's just your extended family, which was, it kind of meant a lot. Because also when you do function bands and wedding stuff, unless your friends are the ones having the birthday or getting married, or like they're involved in the company that you're doing, you can go like, I'm a musician. They go, oh, where can we come and see you? I go, well, unless you book us, nowhere. You can't just pop into somebody's wedding, vault across the fence and go like, oh, I've heard the band are good.
Or can't we?
Or can't we? Oh, don't. It's been lots of things like, you were not here earlier. Like, you were not in the wedding procession. You just got a tuxedo T-shirt on. You're not even
like, yeah, so?
Yeah, so. Oh, God. That's where, like, when you're in a place where it's like tuxedo T-shirts, that's where you're like, let's just get the gig done and get out of here. It's like, this is not like a very high end crowd.
I've been in places where there's not to make a fine point of it. I can't even remember who I was seeing, but went up near Cheltenham Way, and went to a place. My sister was living up there at the time, and yeah, basically this guy was doing a live gig, and it was just like some awful people. like their just like and their kids.
Oh, really?
And,
It's funny you should mention Cheltenham, because I did a gig in Cheltenham. It was a function band one, not a rock band one, and I think it was for like, it was a company for like Hitachi or Toshiba, one of those like Japanese like premium electronic goods sort of thing. And the front row was all the envoys, all the people over from Japan, very smart, very sort of like quite serious. The middle row, like they said, they divided it by section of the company. The middle row was all the people who did the sales stuff, so they were kind of like yuppie kind of people. And then at the back row were the fitters. And that was like, you've never seen so many like hoodies over like rented tuxes and women in leopard skin, like, you know, women in just, like, and it was dire.
This is the class stratification I've been hearing so much about.
It literally was, yeah. It literally was. It was like the class diagram as like laid out in a table plan. That was essentially like, it's a table plan of a class diagram of a class division.
Eesh.
And somebody, like, we were playing, and somebody came up to me. I was doing sound and said, "I'm really sorry." This was like, people still dancing. It was like 10:30, not even 11. We were due to finish at midnight, and they said, "We're really sorry. Like, one of the fitters has glassed another one of the fitters in the bar because of a dispute." You know, like, well, they didn't go into that specifically, like open out. They said, "Oh, somebody's been glassed in the bar." Like, so what we've got to stop. I said, yeah, once there's any fight broken out, music just got to end, because it can encourage more stimuli and more people getting up and rowdy. So I just told the band, I said, that's it. We've got to finish. Yeah, literally, we've got to pack up and go. Like, oh, and everyone's like, why's that? So we got them in glass. And I went, and as I was picking up, you know, on the way out, so I spoke to the floor manager, said, what happened then? So, well, apparently one of the fitters was caught possibly looking in the direction of one of the other fitters' wives. And that was enough to vindicate a Budweiser bottle to the head. I'm like, bloody, yeah, I know, yeah. And you think that's,
these guys don't mess around.
They really don't. And that's like, that was a high-end electronic good. That's not like a kind of dive bar somewhere. That's not like a, hey, you, let's fight. That's fighting talk. You know, it's
not like, see you looking at my woman.
Oh, woman, no, why not? She pretty, you know. It's like, wait, what? Like, why not? Are you looking at my bird? No. Why not? You gay or something? It's like, I can't win with these. I can't win with these people.
It's like,
if you want the fight, let's have the fight. But don't like kind of preamble it with something I can't win on. You know?
Yeah, it's kind of like a sort of like finger trap sort of situation where they're like, you're like, oh shit,
what is this? Well, if I just take
do I say no? Do I run away? Do I say actually she's quite a lovely woman, but I wasn't quite interested in this moment?
Yeah, aesthetically she's very pleasing, but I do not wish to make a mark on your territory. So I wish to leave you to that.
Okay.
Mark on what? Oh, that sounded like a 3-syllable word. So yeah. So we've been doing that, and I do also, like, that's something that's kind of like, that was my main thing, obviously, until lockdown. We haven't played a gig since last one we did was in Felixstowe in a really nice big theatre in early March. That was a double header with Great Yarmouth. And then the last gig I did after that was a Rotarians thing with a function band on I think it was like the second week, and we sort of knew things were shutting down, and then everything after that's just cancel. You know, and the sad thing is that it comes up in my, you know, you put your things in your diary and your phone, and you get a little notification like, if you leave now, you will get to the Chippenham Arts Centre in 2.5 hours. Like, I don't have to leave because I don't have the gig. Oh, I should have been doing that gig. I should have been choosing my sandwich at the Esso for the drive there.
It seems to be a unifying theme, SO.
It does. I noticed it's brought us together. Yeah, it's brought us together. Like, for some reason, Shell and BP are not getting a look in on this one.
No. I mean, I was an SO guy. I was an SO.
Didn't you work in an SO at some point?
Oh yeah. And it was emotional. It's emotional. Mostly the emotions of terror, because handling petrol and hoping that you don't miss one is probably one of the most abject sort of like anxieties that you could have in that kind of job. I mean, anything else I was kind of ambivalent about, barely conscious. But if I wasn't a till,
were you doing night service? Were you just kind of like take the change and then just like throw the change back and not notice that they've only paid for like the Mars bar and not the 80 quid's worth of unleaded that they filled up with?
To be fair, luckily I only had one of those situations where I missed out on fuel, and I bloody panic, man. Just panic. I thought I was going to get killed. It's just, God, it's one of those things. It's like you get so anxious to get it right, and then it's like I was like, wait, that guy just drove off. I did not notice him.
Did you have a camera? Were you able to?
Oh yeah, there was cameras, and funnily enough, I think it was like one of the local guys. Funny enough, and got a call out to him, and he came back and he was like, "Oh, I didn't realise that was the case. I'm sorry." And I was like, "No, that was completely my fuck up." But anyway,
that's all right. Like we both fucked up on that. I can tell you a small side story about that. I remember I was driving back from a job in Godalming, and I stopped, and I literally just like I didn't have that much money, but I know I needed fuel, so I put like I think it was like 15 quid in my van. And I was behind, like a guy sort of jumped in front of me, and he just filled up. He had an old late 70s Rolls Royce, and this thing had like literally emptied the forecourt. It was so much fuel, and he got in front of me, and it literally was like you might as well be fueling like a 747 with the amount, like, to do a grand total of like 160 miles, like with 12 miles per gallon or something. And it was a nice looking car, but he had a kind of look of a bit of a rogue, like he had a bit of one of those sort of like old 70s donkey jackets type thing. And he got to the counter, and he was sort of patting his pockets, like that thing, you know, when you can't find your wallet, or you're going, I'm looking for my wallet, so I'm patting my pocket. He goes, yeah, I seem to have had a bit of a spot of bother with my wallet. If I just go and like, and I could see the guy behind the counter going like, shit. Like, well, it was weary. It wasn't like, oh God, this is the end. It was like, yeah, like I'll go and sort something out with the bank. Like, it was a bit of that. The guys who always have a spot of bother with something are like clearly like criminals who are just like only ever get paid in cash, and they somehow like exist under the radar of the bank, or they've got some weird.
I seem to have a spot of bother with being in the legitimate economy.
I seem to have a spot of bother with them playing within the laws of the tax of the nation.
They're only guidelines, aren't they?
Yeah, only guidelines. Yeah, and so like he ran back, and I was like, yeah, it's fine. And the guy said, yeah, next. And then he just totted it up, and I put my card in, and I was in a rush, so I just put your card in, I just tapped it away, like not even looking, and drove off. And then the next day, it was like I got paid on Friday, and then I went to go and like buy something on Thursday, which was like 3 quid, and my card got denied. I'd like try it again, like it's denied. And then I went into my online banking on my phone. The guy in the Rolls Royce had his fuel charged to my card, and the guy hadn't cleared it. He couldn't clear it, so he like without looking, I paid for like 115 quid's worth of unleaded. And so it's like, so I've literally like lost 115 quid. And so I went back, and as I walked back to the thing, he saw me coming like, oh, and he went out and he went to the till and got like 100. So sorry. I'm really sorry. That guy with the Rolls Royce, he's a bit of a chancer, because I've been told by another services that he does like a fill and dash type thing. Just kind of like, he can afford a Rolls Royce, but he can't afford to fuel it. I was like, at that point, reassess your life. You know, reassess your life.
Just like, I like to look good, but I don't really have any scruples. So
I completely without scruples. I'm a rogue, you know. I'm a bit of a rogue.
You pulled me over, and I just smell of bad intentions. That's my thing. I'm sorry, I seem to have dominated, because I know we're sticking to time, but I've dominated the conversation. So what in the world of John? What does John do? I think I can precurse to the world, if you don't know who this man is, that you are I don't agree with like a lot of the things you say politically, and we have a lot of arguments about that, but the way you don't write them like an idiot, you make salient points and you write them really well, and the fact that you're not a writer it's a travesty. Like, I would read like newspaper columns in papers I would never pick up, because you actually can write quite well. So where did that come from then? Is that just something that's natural to you, or it's let me see. Okay, we got enough time. Good. And
about 15 minutes.
About 15 minutes.
Yeah.
Right. So, a bridge version.
Yeah, a bridge version. Yeah.
So basically, like in late school in English, I actually found I was actually quite good at creative writing. There was like a sort of like a creative writing like module, and I hadn't really shown much of a knack for anything in terms of expression music, anything like that in school. I was a bit sort of like insular. So I did this creative writing module thing, and it started from there. Basically, the teacher actually pointed it out as a prime example of creative writing, and that was, for me, with my sort of like lack of self-esteem at the time, I was like, ooh, compliment.
An outlet.
Yeah, it's an outlet, and that's the thing. It's like because I've been generally quite a private person, and obviously spending a lot of time on the internet. I mean, as a '90s kid, I was kind of a '90s internet baby.
Oh, okay. Because you're a little bit younger than me, aren't you? You're like what are you, 29 or something? What are you? 20?
I'm 30. It's 1990.
Oh, 1990. Okay, so you were the year below me, because I remember you were a year below me at school. Like, so you probably would have been in sixth form, like early year when I was in in late year. So we probably went through the same thing, because I did English lit as well. So we went.
But it was just sort of like a moment of sort of like realization, and like it was, like you say, an outlet. And basically from that, over the years, I joined online communities of writing and stuff like that, writing in all sorts of different genres and universes. I mean, Star Wars was actually quite a major one, which I would write in these basically these sort of like text-based
would you like fan fiction?
Effectively fan fiction.
Yeah,
effectively fan fiction. And basically, it was kind of like sort of like someone writes something and then you reply to that, and it's kind of that sort of thing. And you
was it kind of like a create your own story and everyone contributes type thing?
And
cool.
From that, and the craziest thing of that is obviously my confidence and generally my character. I think I'm going to kind of roll together several different notations into one. But yeah, it was good for my character, because what happened was I went from only being able to write like a sentence, because I felt like, oh, what I'm writing isn't good enough and stuff like that. And in interacting with these other people that were better writers at the time and had that ability to translate what they were thinking into writing, I ended up like writing God knows how many like stories and subplots within this group. And I wrote with these guys for near enough 10 years as a hobby. And yeah, just from where I was in terms of like being able to express myself and create things, it's been such a massive journey for me, really. It actually helped me in terms of the way I eloquate myself, the way I actually conduct myself in the world. And it's, I mean, I probably, if in 2020 hindsight, there are things in my past that I probably would have done better, but that was one thing that I sort of like hazarded into, and it actually carried me quite well. So it was, it's one of the best things that's happened to me, really, and I've done, really. So that's,
I would always encourage it, because even if it's like, it takes a lot, like, it's very easy to dismiss somebody who says got an opinion you don't agree with if it's badly voiced, and you can pick holes in it, because it's, you can, say if you got like what you might call the screaming gammon, they'd speak the language or get out and they can barely even type the language, and it's all block capitals and all that. But you are, when you're writing about anything on Facebook, and John's got, if you're interested, John has a Facebook group, Sons of Tomorrow group. His philosophy, other people are encouraged to contribute to it. I guess I'm kind of like the equivalent of like the standard liberal left commentator, I guess, in my input to it.
It's all power to you, honestly. I'll say that.
Yeah, exactly. You see, like, we can have we'll always have a civil discourse, even if we intently disagree with what each other says. Because I am not, especially when I know people like you exist, because it's one of those things where I like to read something that maybe challenges what I believe. Like, it's one of those things where I love Christopher Hitchens' writing. His writing was beautiful. It was his onstage, manner was superb. He was so Arabian wit, but he didn't always say stuff I agreed with, but I could listen to it. Like, when it's done badly, it's not like, I just turn it off. Like, if I was
there's so many people that are I think it's just the influence of social media, really, because that outlet is so readily available, and it doesn't really take much of any
forethought.
Yeah, forethought. You literally just can effectively vomit out the barely composed thoughts in your head. And I do think, it does sound elitist in a way, but there's a lot of people that shouldn't be voicing those political opinions without actually learning a damn thing. And it's frustrating. It's like there's guys that, if they actually meditated on what they believed, and believe me, I'm not going to say this with with I'm going to say this with a bit of ego. I think it's quite
Don't do it.
quite earned. But
I'll blow smoke up your ass to probably reinstate that you're right in what you're saying.
it's basically the case that I've had a lot of time to myself to think, and I've engaged with a lot of different ideas about it, and I've actually there's been some introspection about it. It's not like I've come to a place where it's like, okay, I believe in this now. Everything else it just has no merit or weight. It's like
you were on sort of about 5 or so years ago. You were on the other side of the fence to kind of where you are now. It's not like you've just, you know. And also, I would say that maybe 8, 11, that sort of time, I was maybe a bit more right wing than I am now. Like, but I don't like all go one way. I've got things where I'm sort of conservative about. Like, I'm not mad into identity politics, like, which is kind of, I think I want to discuss this when we keep doing it. I'm not kind of like my whole thing is like economic things, and weirdly on a lot of things we kind of agree. I think you and me kind of agree on a lot of things, like in a certain way on economics, and also I think we agree on a lot of like kind of offense culture. I don't give a shit, because a lot of the time it's the real problem is being ignored. Like, you know, I don't want to get heavy into it now, but like when you're kind of saying this person has views I don't agree with, they can't come and speak at this university because I think they're a Nazi, when there's actual like guys in, you know, not just America, like little pieces of Eastern Europe, like literally walking down the street with swastikas shouting Jews are not replaced. I think like that's kind of where the real problem might be. Like that's kind of where the real, you know, like the core of the dangerous stuff is with them. It's not with, you know. And also, if your ideas are so, you know, if your ideas are so good, argue them. Don't just say.
That's where I completely agree with you on that. Is the one thing that is probably the most dire thing that's being eroded by this sort of culture of being massively offended and massively repelled by difference, is being able to have that discourse and actually hone out ideas. And I mean, I even the most abhorrent people that are around, I mean, you say, let's pick a name out of the air, like a Katie Hopkins, for instance. I would have the debate with her. As much as she can be distasteful, as much as everyone may think she's
horrible,
she's an idiot. And
she's not an I would say she's not an idiot. She's very good at because she's found a niche that garners a lot of attention kind of for her, which some people on the left are also guilty of, more in the identity politics kind of way. But she, I think, there's been like, since I would say the last 4 or 5 years, the kind of really dark, hateful thing, like they've gone, oh, this can be monetized because people really pick up on it, and there's more outlets for it. There's, you know, having a YouTube channel, there's having, you know, turning up and having books. You know, you can have like a ghostwriter put together some any old shite and charge 12 quid for it and sell it, as long as it's got like something like, you know, taking my stand or something like that. And, you know, anyone can have that. And I think in the same way that her and Milo Yiannopoulos, or even to a way Piers Morgan, know, like, I need to say something that is going to piss everybody off, because at least then somebody's looking at me. And I don't care. Sometimes if they care that they're right, they might look like, I know that this is totally incorrect, but people are looking at me regardless. People are actually paying attention to me, and that's good, because that's hits on my YouTube thing. That's money to my people who pay for my advertising, and that's money in my pocket. And the people who probably don't have any real convictions, but they know that there's, and I'm going to make my stand. I would say there's more of a monetization possibly to be made on the right of things than there is to the left, because, as you probably know, the left don't have a lot of money. So
hey, I'm not going to say you said it, man. It's like,
I said it. Yeah, it's just like the left. They're like kind of
those rich right wingers. They'll buy any show. Shit.
Yeah, they'll buy any old shit, or at least they can afford to sell it. You know.
But this is the thing, is that I do agree, especially in the case of Piers Morgan. I would say, out of all the names you listed, I mean, he's probably one of the most mercenary of that. He's quite happy to switch sides at the touch of a button. And I noticed in recent, because I noticed that up to end of 2019, he was kind of like, he didn't go, I'm not fully invested in, say, Brexit. I'm not fully invested in the Conservative Party, but I'm invested in what a majority of people have. And therefore, this is the side I'm going to plant my flag on.
And I'm going to get arsey at people, you know, kind of on the identity politics side of things. At times in which I've disagreed with them, they're going, you're kind of like, you know, completely blanking them, which is not fair at times. Yeah. And then since the coronavirus thing happened, he's almost completely flipped. He's like his online Twitter thing, and it's almost, I don't know where the country is now in terms of if there's like a 50% line of who supports the current government, Boris Johnson's government, and who doesn't support them and doesn't think they're doing well. I have no idea what that, you know, what the percentage-ometer, which way it swings.
Yeah, I think a lot of that is up in the air since Corona, honestly. I mean, no one's really been able to put their finger in the air and actually measure it.
No.
But from what I can take is, I definitely agree with that that take on Piers Morgan. It's the case that I think he's very much someone that is aware of, because there's a thing that I would say he's equivalent to Trump in, is that there's a thing that in terms of business and marketing is called A/B testing. And basically,
sorry, you cut out there. Say that again. What was that? The what testing?
A/B testing. Basically,
A/B testing.
It's something that basically you say in Trump's case, puts out a tweet basically saying, "Oh, I'm going to do this certain thing." But he measures the reaction of the crowd from that, and then he offers the other side afterwards and measures the response to that. And I think that's what Piers Morgan does. But I would say Trump is better at it because he's been in business and basically that's his bread and butter. Whereas Piers is more sort of like a what would be the word, sort of huckster in a way.
Yeah. I would say so. I mean, I would say Trump is a huckster in other ways, but that's something we probably
that's his shtick.
But I would say, yeah, exactly, yeah. But I think one thing I would never say that Trump isn't good at is, you know, self-publicity. I think that that's the other thing. I think that where both you and me also agree is that there can be people who can be like, you know, just be like, oh, you know, I don't agree with what they say, they're diabolical. But you can go, but you know what? They're really good at that sort of thing. Like, that's one of the things where people said, not even political, like Katie Price, formerly Jordan, was a brilliant self-marketing person. She just absolutely...
Brilliant businesswoman.
Yeah, brilliant businesswoman. Like, she absolutely knows how to, like, if she's gaining, like, losing traction in some way, okay, I'll release this book, or I'll release this, like, DVD.
I'll go to a nightclub and snog half the people there.
Yeah, exactly, yeah, because I know that somebody will be there. And now that kind of, like, everybody in the world is their own little paparazzi corner, then that's almost like you're almost better. You don't have to worry about being caught. It's almost just a case of, if you want to self-publicize yourself, it's just a case of who is it that's going to pap you, not a case of will they.
Yeah, just do something that's outrageous and noteworthy enough, and someone will pull out their phone and take a picture or record it. So
yeah, exactly. I mean, every you know, pretty much everybody has a camera in their pocket, and everybody, like, if you're clever, you will be the person who kind of does that. But then again, of course, that's now catching a lot of people out, because I think there is a generation of especially politicians that don't realize that everything they say ever in a public sphere is on, or even in a private sphere, everything they say is on record. Every tweet they make is, somebody will screenshot it, somebody will log it, even if they choose not to, you know, if they choose to delete it, it will be there in existence somewhere, you know.
In terms of accountability for the for politicians, most definitely, like, and public figures too. It's probably somewhere where we probably butt heads a little bit in terms of, like, the efficacies. It's generally, I'm not really a fan of, like, because there's a class of people that will chase after outrage, and like some comedian makes a post like 10 years ago about a certain certain thing, and then they'll go, okay, well, this guy's offended the group, effectively the victim group, and then they have to chase after them through, like, you can just imagine them scrolling through the Twitter feed,
just
trying
to
find something.
Yeah, saving them, like, I've got to catch this guy, especially if they're on, like, a side of something, and then they go, right, maybe if I like take a day off and I just scroll, like, just hitting down on Twitter, I'll find something that, like, even if it's 3 years old, is kind of, like, problematic is the word they like to use, or out of touch. And it's like, but what I think it's fair to say is, you go, like, look, back then I felt that way. You know, back then that's how I felt. I'm more educated now. Like, I don't know, do you know the comedian Jim Jeffries?
Yeah.
Jim Jeffries, a fucking great comedian. Fucking A, mate. You know, like, when he started off, hard drinking, smoking, drug dealing, shagged everything that moved, and was just like, I am just on the out to offend everybody. His most recent one, still you know, not edgy, very funny, but he goes, look, I understand we're all woke and everything, but yeah, there are things that I wouldn't put on now, but at the time they were funny, and nobody's ever come up to me and necessarily said that directly upset me. But because they might do, I might go, look, that's fine. Like the whole thing with censoring films, and I might just make this the last topic because we're coming up on our time. But the whole thing is, I don't think just going, right, no one can ever see that film again because it's got a problem scene. If you just put in, like, this thing was shot in like, I've never seen Gone with the Wind, and maybe I'll never see it ever. But if you just put in, like, this film is filmed at a certain time of Hollywood, and it's based even further back than that. It's not Birth of a Nation that's got clearly, like, an agenda behind it. It's a film about where someone isn't necessarily, like, the butt of something, but they are maybe not referred to as an equal, or this person uses a slur for a racial thing or a sexual thing. But that's what it was of the time, and you should expect that. You shouldn't be surprised that something from nearly a century ago is going to have some different, you know, what are you going to find from 100 years ago that's not going to have one moment where you go, ooh, you know, like you're
it's one of the things, it's like sort of, it's comes down to hindsight being 2020, and basically there's a mentality I find with a lot of people is that there's kind of a high-minded sort of like disdain and disregard of the process, if you will. That I call it the process rather than just the history, because it is a process. It's not the case that everything was like derived out of a perfect like white background, and then we managed to, as human beings, just make it all crap. It's kind of the opposite. We came from a very barbarous, very uncivilized, very dangerous and tumultuous like fundament. Effectively, we came from like the wilderness, built civilizations, built all kinds of things, and
brought more people into the realm of being equals as time has gone on, as opposed to castigating them.
One thing that was raised by Ben Shapiro, conservative commentator, quite good in a lot of things, owns the libs. Apparently.
He loves owning, especially on his own YouTube channel where he decides
effects and the logic.
It actually, ruined. He's ruined.
But one thing he did raise is basically in terms of like the discussion of like what was going in Portland and stuff like that with the Antifa situation. The one thing he raised was basically saying a lot of history is the raising of systems and the replacing of systems that are inferior. So it's not the case that these things are raised and then we go, oh, well, it's absolutely perfect and we can never confront it because it is just as it is and whatever we make is fantastic. And I don't really take to that perception that a lot of people have, that we did everything out of a malignant sense of malice. And
more ineptitude, or just
we may just have been a bit unaware, and we don't know all ends, and that's
true. I mean,
it's a human compulsion.
I mean, in regards to the Portland riots, obviously it's like, if it's weird that we look at them now, we're going like, oh God, time is moving so quick. What started this? And we're in a place now where we could see that somebody has a full 9-minute video of a man dying with a policeman's knee on his neck, knowing that that's the only thing he's trying to do for a very small misdemeanor, let's be honest, even if it was counted as one, and killing them, basically slowly killing them, and then going, well, he didn't actually commit a crime, but we've killed him anyway. And that just, that was a Rodney King thing, but the Rodney King thing was like, sort of divvied out via TV and traditional media and that kind of thing. And I think with the combination of the coronavirus, like the quarantine situation, people being either made redundant or being told they get one check, it was like I think the whole thing was a tinderbox just waiting. Like that was the match on that like torch paper. And George Floyd was the torch paper, and that attack, that was a match that was like, you know what? I hate the government. I hate the system. The system's just abandoned me when I needed it the most. It's not there for me. It's not going to help me. And then I have to watch somebody get away with just murdering someone, probably on the likelihood that they have been murdered because they've been profiled. And I don't want to see like people's shops burn. I don't want to see like little independent businesses go up in flames. It's the last thing I want to see. And that is.
There's nuances to be said of it, and we should do another one of these to actually go through those nuances and discuss it out in more detail. But I think the George Floyd situation was definitely something that pretty much universally was taken as it was wrong. And as much as the guy may have
had a checkered past,
and
but
this is
didn't
the thing, but no, and it was a case that there was a lot of stuff that was unknown at the time going on, like the guy actually knew the person.
They'd worked together, hadn't they? Like in some private jobs or something. And the officer had been like, he'd been brought up on the fact that he was using excessive force all the time and had been warned but not reprimanded. Basically, he'd been ticked off multiple times, but not enough to mean that it was, you know, not soon enough to mean it didn't end in somebody's life being taken. So
yeah, this is the one thing I take away from it, though. I mean, there's a lot of
chaff.
There's a lot of chaff, definitely.
Yeah, we've got to get to the wheat in the chaff.
And fake news. And and basically, like Portland, Antifa, like the whole BLM movement, there's so many things that we can discuss, and we should really do that. But one thing I take away from that is that there are moments where it is apparent that an injustice has happened, and we do need to have a proper discussion about it. It's just the case that, from where I come from, my angle on it is obviously the emotion can overwhelm the sense of proportion and the sense of what could actually be a solution or a path forward. And it seems like we've gotten to a point in where the anger is sort of metastasized in a way where it's sort of self-perpetuating now. It doesn't matter what solutions or avenues or diffusions you offer for
chaos can reign, and it's justified because
I mean, it's like, for instance, like a group like Antifa is effectively preconceived on the idea that it wants to effectively pull down this current system, pull down everything and raise its own in its place. And there's also anarchists and stuff like that around it that just enjoy.
Well, anarchists just like I'll hold on to the tails of this movement and I'll just burn stuff.
Yeah, grabbing onto the tails while they throw Molotov cocktails everywhere.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, grabbing onto the Molotov cocktails and throwing them and destroying things. And basically, like any riot movement or any protest movement, they're going to be like, I didn't like. I promise we will wrap up in a little while. I promise, but like, you know, like the Extinction Rebellion, I kind of like, I got where they were coming from. The problem is, it's just there's so many of them are clearly fucking trust fund white kids with dreads that are just like doing like hippie circles. Like, look, the guy who's got the best message is the 80-year-old guy in kind of like a smart suit who's honest, and he just says, look, I won't be around for when we need to make the changes. Please make them now for my grandkids. That's the guy that should have been the front and center of that. Like a white middle class goes like, look, I'm fairly unaffected by most things, but my kids won't be. Like, they will be affected by the changes that are happening.
Yeah,
you don't want to see some like guys doing like you know, women getting naked and painting their breasts, because essentially what they're doing is they're kind of like hijacking a legitimate movement to kind of freak out in public and have people.
It's an avenue. It's coming back to the whole social media sort of like entitlement to exposure, if you will. Like, everyone's their own star, effectively.
Whether it's for good or for ill, whether it's malice being directed towards you or plaudits, it's the same thing.
I find with quite a few movements now, because activism now is so ubiquitous and there's so much of it.
There wasn't really 10 years ago. You noticed, like, we've really gone through a big up in the last 5 years. We've gone through a massive upheaval where I think everybody's learn to kind of like be an active for their cause, even if they're just Mr. and Mrs. Smith from number 42. They will have they will have a cause, and they'll actually kind of be passionate about it. They will go out with the placards for whatever they feel is right. And I think everything was a bit cozy maybe up to about 10 years ago for most people, that it didn't affect. But we also didn't see it affect us. We're everything in the world we can see unfiltered, unmade up. We can see things for what they truly are if they're really bad. And I think they go like, oh, I would never have seen that in the 90s or any time before that. I would have seen it through the lens of what the news wanted me to see and what side they wanted me to take. And that's a whole other thing.
And there's a lot to that as well. And just at the end, we're grabbing so many of these threads that would be like fantastic as full videos themselves.
Absolutely, yeah. Notes, make notes, please.
I'll make God knows how many notes.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm interacting with this stuff all the time, and thinking about it for way too much time. But generally, it's I find that the change is definitely more palpable, and we've gone from sort of like a period where we're almost in a sort of like a status quo malaise of like politics were the same, culture was the
Same old, yeah.
We're basically, it's all settled in this one thing. To be honest, for me, I have the sort of antithetical opinion that that was in of itself corrosive, because we were sort of stagnating and we weren't really engaging with ideas and different perspectives, and we were just kind of assuming that everyone agreed, everyone was on the same page.
Taking watered down versions of all sides, which basically didn't really differ. I mean, now there is like 10 years ago, I don't think people would know a left-wing party from a right-wing party. And now, you know, like on the paper, we go, right, that is, you know, when people got angry that Corbyn became leader of the Labour Party. And I said to a friend, well, you've actually got a socialist in charge of a socialist party. Why are you angry that you can now tell this person apart from somebody on the Tory bench? And then in the middle are Lib Dems just trying to give everybody, you know, like diet ice cream and like, you know, gluten-free wafers. And everyone's like, there's no.
Can we just make an agreement that we probably should just stop talking about the Liberal Democrats and they might just go away on their own?
Yeah, just hope they, all 12 of them. So
yeah. I mean, they can have their meetings in the back room. It's fine. Just can you just stop pretending like you know anything about modern politics?
Yeah, you kind of appeal to nobody. Like
it's kind of like the party that people choose to kind of genuflect that they're being political and conscious of them.
If you don't want to upset someone at a dinner party, because I know that a dinner party where if I said I was a Jeremy Corbyn socialite, like you'd hear knives and forks drop. But then again, if you went and then the pearls being clutched,
monocles popping out.
Yeah, monocles, yeah. But then again, but then again, if I know that you said in like maybe certain pub circles where I went, and we said I'm a full-throated Boris Johnson supporter. Like you get to the end of the word supporter, and then like a pint glass would be like half in your face.
Yeah, oh, trust me. Like,
which they wouldn't be like 5 years ago with the same party, funnily enough. But now, like, there's a very, very clear divide between the two, and then there's like the little sort of, you know, like Brexit UKIP for one side, like fringe party of that. And there's like the Greens party, I guess, for the other side, maybe the SNP to an extent. And then in the middle where nobody kind of cares and they want to play it safe at the dinner party, they just go, Lib Dem.
Well, that's the one major thing. I mean, this is probably something that's apparent to most people, even if they're not really that politically engaged, is that any sort of like politically centre sort of movements are basically collapsed. They're redundant. They're redundant because now there's basically the whole status quo thing that allowed that to be the case. It's like, I don't really have any strong feelings about anything, so I'll go in the middle.
And who doesn't have like strong feelings about anything now? Who generally is like milk toasty towards I think there's a united hatred of centrists. I think is
because it's like, and this is the thing, is like as my stance is, I'm sort of like I consider myself a centre right sitting person, slightly more conservative. I'm socially aware, there's a lot of like we have quite a lot of common ground in a lot of what we discuss. It's just the case that I lean sort of like libertarian, and the term libertarian has so many connotations and so much bad weight behind it. Like, and don't get me wrong, it's one of those sort of like a groundskeeper Willie sort of situations, like libertarians hating libertarians,
and libertarians and other libertarian. You libertarians,
libertarian Scotland.
You libertarians sure are a contentious bunch. You've just made an enemy for life. And on that, it's like, and on that bombshell, I think really, exactly. I know what you mean. We've got so much more room to delve into that, but this is great. I'm really hoping. I can't massively hear myself, but I'm hoping it'll come through. You come through loud and clear. It's brilliant. We will join again. And have another one of these. Hopefully, give it the thumbs up in the comment section below. You know, let us know. No hate mail to either one of us, because we'll be putting it, with our friends, where we're having a civil discussion here, and that doesn't mean that we're using
civil discussion
and dick jokes, like civil discussion with dick jokes.
Well, hey, it's the internet, man. It's like if those appear in there, now I think we're just going to have to sort of like put them in their own folder and save those for
another day. Yeah, I hope you've been making notes. I'll say it's a goodbye from me,
and it's a goodbye from me.
Okay, thank you. This has been Ozzy and Jon. See you later.
Mm-hmm. Catch you later.
Catch you later.